Hello and welcome, everyone. We're so excited and grateful to have such a large and diverse show of strength from our community. Looking across my screen, I can see an incredible array of elected officials, workforce development providers, business partners, students and clients, and advocates all coming together to demand that our city leadership step up and meet the urgency that this moment calls for. Our people and communities have been hurting for far too long, and we are all here to demand the visionary jobs and training plan centered on equity and inclusion. For a little context, my name is Jose Ortiz Jr., and I'm the CEO of the New York City Employment and Training Coalition. NYCETC is the largest city-based workforce development association in the country, with over 180 members who are providing training and upskilling for more than 500,000 New Yorkers. Our incredible members work tirelessly to ensure that every New Yorker, especially those who have been historically marginalized, disenfranchised, and cut off from workforce opportunities, have access to the skills, training, and education needed to thrive in the local economy, that every business is able to maintain a highly skilled workforce. As you all know, the pandemic exacerbated issues that were Herculean before March 2020. Economic growth has not been fostered evenly or equitably in our city, and the pandemic only acted to further accelerate that inequity. 1 million New Yorkers lost their jobs. Factoring in those leaving the labor force and an estimated 320,000 involuntary part-time workers, New York City's combined unemployment and underemployment at the end of 2020 was 24.5%, more than twice the official New York City unemployment rate of 11.4%. And while the jobs losses impacted workers across every socioeconomic experience, educational attainment, and community, the losses disproportionately impacted women of color, people of color, low-income workers, immigrants, and historically marginalized New Yorkers. Nearly 2/3 of those who lost a job had annual workplace earnings of less than $40,000. And 59% of those who lost their jobs were Black and brown New Yorkers. These are the New Yorkers that you, our members, provide training for every single day. These are the New Yorkers who our members never stopped supporting over the last year. Across the system, over 80% of New Yorkers served by workforce development organizations are people of color. And since the pandemic began, NYCETC members have seen a 44% increase in demand for employment and training services. However, due to budget cuts and an overwhelming recession, workforce organizations have seen a 26% decrease in their capacity to provide training services and a staggering 63% decrease in their capacity to provide job placement services. This is why we've been advocating for recovery for all NYC and a jobs and training plan in this year's budget, and why we're all here today. We cannot repeat the mistake of previous recessions. We must invest in our communities and people first. We must create pathways into growing in essential sectors like tech, healthcare, renewable energy, and climate preparedness, and make sure that these jobs are proactively built for communities that have been hardest hit by the pandemic and historic marginalization. We have the money. We know that there are funds available now from the federal stimulus and money coming down the pike as the economy restarts and the federal government passes more comprehensive investments like the infrastructure plan. We have the organizations. The workforce system in New York City is robust and diverse, with hundreds of organizations providing programs in key sectors and supporting over 500,000 clients with skills training, wraparound supports, and placing them in quality jobs and careers. We have the council support. 23 council members, spearheaded by Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, who you'll hear from in a little bit, sent a letter to Mayor de Blasio urging him to invest in bridge programs in order to ensure training programs are accessible to all New Yorkers who are currently locked out due to language or numeracy barriers. In this letter, they too insisted on a comprehensive jobs and training plan, and many of them are joining us today to carry this message forward with you. You can read through the full letter in the chat now. We have the people. Over the last year, we have consistently heard from our members and their clients that they want to get back to work in a safe and thriving manner. We receive calls daily from New Yorkers of all walks of life looking for programs to get back on their feet. New Yorkers want to rebuild our communities and economy. They want to be at the forefront of this growth. But unfortunately, the city does not have the plan. The current proposed budget is painfully disappointing in its lack of investment in workforce development services that New Yorkers need now more than ever before. Programs and services were deeply cut last year in the midst of the pandemic, putting our organizations at huge risk and severely limiting our ability to meet the outsized demand for employment and training services. These programs include agency cuts as well as council initiatives like Bridge Program for Workforce Development, the Digital Inclusion and Literacy Initiative, and Job Training and Placement Initiative. Not only must these programs be funded at pre-pandemic levels, they must be increased to match the tremendous need of the over 400,000 and underemployed New Yorkers still looking for a way to get back to work. And not only do these programs need to be scaled up, We need a comprehensive and visionary jobs and training plan that helps local businesses grow and New Yorkers gain the new skills and opportunity they need to navigate and thrive in a post-COVID economy. Today, you will hear from elected officials, business leaders, workforce providers, and clients making this same call. Please join the conversation in the chat and on social media with the hashtag #RecoveryForAllNYC and urge your council members and the mayor to invest in jobs and training now. And you can show your support by changing your Zoom background to one of the images we have shared in the chat. To kick us off, I'm so thrilled to be joined by Councilmember Helen Rosenthal, who has been a staunch ally to the coalition and the push for a stronger workforce development system for years now. Councilmember Rosenthal, thank you so much for your support and for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Honored to be here. I just want to make sure that my phone is sideways, but that I'm up and down with you guys. Okay.
You see, you look great.
Okay. All right. Double zooming here. So look, you said it all. But as somebody who's in some of these budget meetings, we're getting up-to-date information about what's going on in New York City. What we're seeing right now is some are recovering, right? Those who make the most money are recovering just fine.
Hello, guys.
The people,
Hello.
and I'm gonna just ask that everyone get muted, and then I can turn I can unmute mine if you need me to do that.
We're all good. We just keep having some people, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're just Zoom.
We're monitoring, so apologize.
Been there, done that. Anyway, thank you. But what we're seeing is citywide, the unemployment rate is still at 10%. But there are parts of this city where the unemployment rate is over 30%. And we can't let that, we will not have a recovery if we don't make sure that everyone is part of that recovery. And so to do this, the mayor must increase investment in our network of workforce development training providers. Bridge and other workforce programs are critical resources for job seekers. They provide training and education to connect people with jobs that otherwise would be out of touch. They also address the obstacles. There's so many obstacles that are always in the road, like lack of internet access or a device with which to submit a job application, made even more difficult by the pandemic when our libraries are closed. We can and must do this. There are remaining unrestricted stimulus dollars, which are intended to assist New Yorkers and businesses as they recover from the pandemic and recession. Let's use them to build a more equitable recovery. Thank you so much to everyone who is here for the hard work they're doing, and I urge you to keep up the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We really appreciate your time and your dedication to this issue. Next up is Evelyn Ortiz from NYATEP. Evelyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joey. Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Ortiz, and I'm the Deputy Director, as Joey shared, of NYATEP, New York State's Workforce Association. And for the past 40 years, we've provided a voice to the workforce development community by advocating for systems change that will foster and promote economic mobility at the federal, state, and local policy levels. Now, since the onset of the pandemic, we've been meeting with our congressional delegation and other congressional leaders from across the nation to stress the importance of an equitable recovery by investing in the skills needs of all New Yorkers. And as many of you on this call know, this is not our first rodeo. The workforce sector has been at the forefront during each economic crisis that the city has undergone. So just to take it back a bit, during 9/11, we were there. During the economic downturn of 2010, we were there. During Hurricane Sandy, we were there too. And because of our experience, we know what it's going to take to get New Yorkers into jobs that can actually provide sustainable wages, and what the city must do to make sure that, unlike previous recessions, this time around, no one gets left behind. As Helen shared, right, like our federal government has already taken the first step by investing in our nation's rescue efforts. And by granting cities like New York City the flexibility to use these funds to meet the local needs. So now it's up to the mayor to step in and utilize these funds to address the unemployment, the labor shortage, and skills training crisis that still right now is plaguing our city. But I can't end this conversation without reminding everyone that during the height of the pandemic, when we were on pause, when everything was closed and fear crippled our city, that the virtual doors of our training providers were wide open. They never stopped working. They're still working around the clock to make sure that thousands of New Yorkers are being trained, placed in employment, and provided with food and other economic necessities. The city must invest in scaling up these training programs so that they can continue to meet the needs of our most vulnerable communities. As you know, the time is right now to invest, and the workforce sector is here to work with our government partners to make this happen. So it's time to get to work. Let's make it happen.
Thanks, Evelyn. We really appreciate your support, your partnership. You're incredible. Thank you for being with us and for all your awards. Up next is Councilmember Barry Grodnicek. Councilmember, welcome and thank you. The floor is yours.
I'm still Barry, don't worry about that. I'm just a kid from New York City public housing. I really want to thank you for putting this together today. You know, as you said, and as my colleague Helen Rosenthal said, this has been a very, very trying time. And, you know, one thing that we learned from the pandemic is that, and one thing that the pandemic ushered in is a new era that's going to need new skills and new skill sets to not just to survive in New York City, but to thrive here. And I am all in to do whatever I can to make sure that the funding is in place as we go forward from the passage of this budget on. There's so many wonderful organizations that are represented here today. I've worked with most of them, many of them citywide. But at the end of the day, people need to be trained, and training is not something that happens once and you know, and they throw you in the swimming pool and say swim. Training has to be an ongoing process, and it is the organizations represented here today that can make that happen. So the money is there. We just got to educate the mayor, so to speak, to make sure that he understands and his administration understands that the council is serious about this. I stand with all my colleagues in this matter, and I'm hopeful for a very successful resolution when we pass the budget. So thank you for having me today. And I hope that this rally will jog people's conscience and remind them that we must all go forward together as one city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. We really appreciate you again for being here. Next up is Councilmember Robert Cornegy Jr. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
I had to get off mute. Thank you so much. My name is Robert Cornegy Jr., and I have the honor of representing Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights in the New York City Council. I'm proud to stand with New York City ETC and our allies to loudly support workforce development. The time for an equitable recovery is now. The time to work for all New Yorkers is now. Every week, my office distributes free groceries in the community. Every week, I see that there are too many people who are facing food insecurity. On my social media pages, I see over and over that my constituents are desperate to work. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed and exacerbated the inequities in New York City. Our country has failed to invest in workforce development. We're asking for small amounts for a big problem. The $20 million for investment in bridge programs, along with our other requests, would do much to address pre-existing inequities. It would also be a wise investment that would create a multiplying cycle of benefits. New York City is great not because we have coal mines or forests, but because we have amazing people. Let's invest in our greatest resource, the people. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this rally and for continuing to fight alongside of you to make sure that that our hardworking New Yorkers have opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate your time. It's good to see you, and thanks for being with us. Next up is Will Stiggy from Goodwill and NYC ETC board member.
Thank you so much, Joey. Thank you so much to the council members who are here. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about Bridge. and all training programs. I've actually been working on Bridge programs since 2016 and had the opportunity to launch it here at Goodwill, New York, New Jersey in this last year. So let me tell you a little bit about what is Bridge. You all have advocated for it, but Bridge and Bridge to Tech is the only way right now for a talented New Yorker who needs specific literacy and numeracy skills, someone who needs supports like a hotspot for their Wi-Fi or the computer, to get a proven 5-week full-time virtual, all 5 boroughs, even Staten Island, on-ramp to a career pathways program. Goodwill launched Bridge to Technology last January in the midst of it all to prepare New Yorkers for advanced technology training programs and to connect them to in-demand tech jobs. We need your support to secure the $20 million in next year's City Council budget to fund Bridge and improve access to careers in the ever-growing tech sector, to enhance the lives of hardworking New Yorkers and their families, and to make New York City a vibrant tech hub where businesses can grow and thrive. The goal of Bridge to Tech is to address diversity in the technology sector, to provide specific skill building that has proven results with Goodwill and our amazing partners like Perscolis. Bridge programs level the playing field to make training accessible for all. In this case, especially for those New Yorkers who would typically not apply for advanced training programs or not get into them. Why is access to tech training important? Well, as we just talked about and Joey framed, in the post-pandemic paradox, our unemployment is higher than the rest of the country, and we are experiencing a high demand for workers. I've always said we can't leave any New Yorker and any talent on the sideline, especially when we want to create a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable workforce that will lead us into this future post-pandemic recovery. Goodwill, actually founded right here in Brooklyn on State Street 106 years ago. We have been customizing training to ensure that nobody's left behind. And that's exactly what we're doing with Bridge to Tech. This customized training makes sure what we hear from the experts. Labor experts say, and the New York Times just had an article a couple days ago about workers needing more than skills. So we need to make training accessible. That means we need to help people land these good jobs with the career guidance, the moral support, the coaching, the mentoring, the proven training that really has results that partners with businesses. That's what it takes. And that's what Bridge is doing when we partner together. I want to tell you about a couple folks. People like Jaya, who applied to Bridge to Tech. She had high math scores, but she struggled with the reading component. English is not her first language. As part of the Bridge program, she worked with our limited English proficiency tutor, who helped double her reading scores in only 5 weeks. This is a specific kind of training that can do that. Targeted. She's now thriving in the Perscolis Network Support course, and she'll graduate next week. This is a course that she couldn't have gotten into without the Bridge. Or Jesus, a cab driver who quit his job during the pandemic because he was worried about his health and safety. He enrolled in Bridge to Tech and was motivated to complete his training, that he ended up continuing to take these classes even after he tested positive for COVID. His efforts have paid off. He's graduated and he's already employed in a technology career. So we see that these successes are here. We're going to meet another gentleman in just a minute as well. I'm just going to tease you with that because you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Remington himself. But I want to just remind us of the big picture besides these specific stories. People of color continue to be disproportionately affected by COVID-19, and the representation needs to increase to diversify tech talent pipeline and the pool of talent in New York City. We have over 1,500 New York City startups that were funded in April 2020 through March 2021 here in New York. They are eager for talent, they want homegrown talent, and we want to be able to give it to them. We know that providing this talent is going to help New York in our recovery. So I think that the case for Bridge to Technology programs have never been more pressing. I just want to thank the council members Traeger, Reynoso, and Rivera, who secured the original $850,000 in council funding that we got for last year, for the Human Resources Administration, who found $150,000, and private funding from BY and Mellon that helped us launch Bridge to Technology at Goodwill, HRA, and Perscolis last year. You all and the advocates who worked so hard on this have made this vision a reality. But now is the time to really take this proven model and this proven partnerships and let's increase it for more bridge programs, for more of these fantastic workforce providers to get involved and secure $20 million in next year's city council budget to fund bridge, improve access to careers in the ever-growing tech sector, to enhance the lives of hardworking New Yorkers and their families. I want to thank Councilmember Rosenthal for introducing this, and to the Councilmember Grodnick and Cornegy for being here, joining the fight today. Your words were spot on, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate your action. I appreciate your positive thoughts that this will go well, and you'll be impacting the lives of hundreds of hardworking New Yorkers, families, and people like Remington, who are about to meet, who we're about to have the pleasure of hearing from. So the time is right. Let's grab this opportunity, and thanks to everyone working hard on this fight.
Thanks so much, Katie. Remington, you're up.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity that you have given me to get to be IT certified. I want to thank Bridge to Tech, Goodwill, and the City Council, because in January, I had no certifications. I had no qualifications in IT. But now I'm Google IT support certified. I'm also CompTIA A plus certified. I could come and work for you guys down there and everything will be all right now. I have the knowledge, I have the skill. Just last week, I went to the interview for a training program, and they were offering me to train me, to grow me to the next level, $75,000 per year. Training. That's fantastic. And this place is about to move into the Bronx. That's great. I'm 55 years old. I'm starting all over again. You're going to have many people like me coming to you for the skills and retraining that they need. Because what the New York Times said, that 1/3 of the small businesses are going to be closed. They're gone. And as you heard earlier, over 1 million jobs lost. People like me are going to need a second chance. And thank you all again for the second chance that I got. Because as I looked back in the class we had people with their GED to their master's degree in Bridge to Tech. And the support they gave us was fabulous. The respect they gave us, knowing that we are down and out, they did treat us just like they were equal. And that is one of the great things about Bridge to Tech. They believe in everybody, they supported everybody, and they gave us all the tools that we needed to make sure we gained the skills that we needed. And I'm also the valedictorian of my class. So when I was pushed forward and I was ahead of the crowd, I finished 2 to 4 weeks ahead of the crowd. But I made sure I turned around and helped other people, because I remembered what the message Goodwill and Bridge to Tech passed on to me. Help somebody, lift somebody up, let them rise up. And this was a great thing, a great experience, a great opportunity. And I want to thank each and every one of y'all that support this program. Thank you. Please support this program in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Remington. It's really great to hear from you and to hear everything that that you experienced through your program with Goodwill and Priscolis. Congratulations on your accomplishment. It's really well done. Thank you. Next up is Councilmember Adrienne Adams. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much and good afternoon. Thank you, Employment Training Coalition, all of our workforce development providers, and all of my colleagues in the council who are here today speaking about the importance of getting New Yorkers back to work. I'm Councilmember Adrienne Adams, and I have the honor of being the first woman to represent District 28 in Southeast Queens, covering Jamaica, Richmond Hill, Rochdale Village, and South Ozone Park. I chair the Public Safety Committee and co-chair the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus of the City Council. We know that this past year has been very, very difficult for all of us. So many of our small businesses have closed, and we're seeing that across our retail and commercial corridors, so many New Yorkers have lost their jobs, had their hours reduced, or were laid off and forced to look for employment elsewhere. Families are struggling to put food on the table and just survive day to day. Simply put, we need New Yorkers back to work in good paying, family sustaining jobs. And that won't happen without investing in programs that are proven to be effective at providing the training and support to help people grow. So as we embark on our recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, we must prioritize and support workforce development like never before. It is critical that we invest $20 million in our bridge programs that provide New Yorkers with the skills and preparation to launch their careers. I'm also a supporter of the pre-apprenticeship programs for our youth, ESOL classes, TASC preparation, and other initiatives that help New Yorkers develop their skills and enter the workforce. We need to bridge the digital divide, especially in a world where access to technology and broadband is more of a requirement than a luxury. I know that our workforce development providers have worked so hard to provide trainings virtually during this pandemic. So we need to equip them and our young people with the resources to learn and grow these new skills. You all know I can go on and on about this subject, but the bottom line is that in order to achieve a fair and equitable recovery from the pandemic, we need to center New Yorkers who want to get back to work, but just need the investment, support, and training. Workforce development cannot be an afterthought, but at the core of our recovery strategy. So thank you again, Jose Ortiz Jr. and the Employment Training Coalition, all of our providers who do such amazing work in our communities, and again, my colleagues in government for spotlighting this issue today. You all know I'm with you all the way and look forward to a strong and inclusive economic recovery that meets the needs of all New Yorkers. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councilmember, for being here with us. Really appreciate your words. Really powerful. So thank you. Next up is Wayne Ho from the Chinese American Planning Council and an NYC ETC board member. Wayne, you're up.
Thank you, Joey, and thank you to all the council members who are joining us. I am Wayne Ho, and I run the Chinese American Planning Council, CPC. We are the nation's largest Asian American social services organization, and we serve over 60,000 New Yorkers all across all 51 council districts here in New York City. The Asian American community, we are the fastest growing racial group in the city. We're currently making up over 15% of all New Yorkers. Because of the pandemic, we have been devastated economically. So there was an increase of 6,900% of unemployment claims. Research from the Health and Hospitals Corporation shows that Asian Americans actually had the highest mortality rate from COVID. And because we had a former president that was using terms like Kung flu or the China virus, our Asian American neighborhoods and small businesses from Chinatown to Sunset Park to Jackson Heights, we were losing business back in January, over 2 months before New York State went on pause. So that means it's critical right now that we have a fair and equitable recovery plan that includes workforce development for the most marginalized, which includes our immigrant communities and our diverse Asian American communities. We're excited that the federal stimulus has brought more revenues into the city. We've seen from IBO reports that we have more tax revenue coming in, we have more state revenue coming in. So this is the time that we need to see the mayor's office and all city council members invest in a just recovery. And that means we need fully funded and enhanced workforce development programs. We need to make sure that our immigrant communities can learn English because that's what helps them get better jobs. We need to make sure that we finally fully fund bridge programs because we know those are the skills that every New Yorker needs to get good jobs. We know that this is a time we need to promote digital inclusion and make sure that others have opportunities for this growing tech sector here in New York City. So right now is the time that we need the city council to join the allies who are here today, as well as the mayor's office to finally say, to have a fair recovery, we are going to center the most marginalized. We're going to uplift everyone through jobs. And we can do that at this time, which is, I want to remind people, this is a legacy budget. This will be the last budget of Mayor de Blasio's administration. This is the last budget of this city council. So this is the time now for all of us to support the most marginalized and making sure that these resources go to community-based organizations and providers of workforce development programs. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne. Thank you so much for your partnership, your leadership at CPC. And we at NYC ETC and our members stand with you in the AAPI community during this really difficult time. We need your support, you need our support. So thank you for being here with us. Next up is Julie Samuels from Tech NYC, one of our great partners and friends. Julie,
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Joey. Thank you. First, a huge thank you to NYC ETC for convening this, but for being a real leader and convener on this issue that is so core, so incredibly core to the city's recovery. Listen, I run an organization that has 800 members, tech companies, investors, the largest employers, the smallest employers. I do not need to tell you that tech jobs are the jobs of the future, that we are going to need New Yorkers are going to need technical skills to get those jobs. And I'm not just talking about jobs where you need, a PhD in engineering. I'm talking about all kinds of jobs. I could throw a lot of data at you. I'm not going to, just a little. I'm going to give you two figures. We recently surveyed a bunch of employers here in the city with our partners at Accenture. We did the survey with our partners at Accenture, and we found that over 20%, I'm sorry, I got it wrong, that our employers intend to increase tech hires by 20%, and that 84% of employers are confident that they'll be able to make those hires here in New York. That's an incredibly important number. That's an incredibly important number because we need to do two things as a city. We need to ensure that those jobs are here, and then we need to ensure that New Yorkers are getting those jobs. And I mean all New Yorkers, not just ones who look like me. That's not why I'm here today. And as a city, we also did a bunch of research, I should say, with the Center for an Urban Future that showed that real investment in intensive workforce programs, in bridge programs, like Katie talked about, Katie from Goodwill talked about, is how we're going to get there. We need to give these people, I was going to say kids, but it's not just kids. You guys heard from Remington, who was amazing. I don't know why you need to hear from me after you heard from Remington, because that's what we got to do, right? These are the jobs that are going to be here. These are the jobs that are going to drive our recovery. These are the jobs that are going to drive our economy. And it's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that New Yorkers have access to them. And that's why we're here today, leaning on our elected officials, with many elected officials who are our friends, and I thank all of them for being here too, to fund these programs, to give New Yorkers the skills, the opportunities they need. And then I'm going to bring the tech companies to bear, and I'm going to make sure that we get the hiring done too. And that is how we're going to have a real recovery for our city that benefits all New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We really appreciate you, as always, for being here with us and for your support. Next up, Shaolee Sen, one of our board members and the leader at Hot Bread Kitchen. Shaolee, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the council members who are here today. It means a lot to hear your words and the support of this community. I'm Shaolee. I'm the CEO of Hot Bread Kitchen. For over a decade, you know us as providing workforce training, job placement, and wraparound supports for women of color, primarily immigrants, with roles in the food industry. So, I know we have a lot of thoughts about the food industry in this moment in time, but despite its many challenges, it is an important entry point into the world of work for many workers, especially those with limited English proficiency, education, and work history. And in parallel, we believe that the diversity of our city's women, minority, immigrant, neighborhood, and family-owned food businesses are a vehicle for economic empowerment and job generation and secure, stable incomes for many, many households. So I'd like to ask everyone, as we think about economic recovery and all of the industries that we're talking about today, that we also take on the particular challenges of the food sector, both that impact the workforce and the owner-operator and small business communities. And critical to this work, and why I'm here today, is that investment in training and education to strengthen the whole sector, improve wages, working conditions, and build pathways to economic opportunity is really important for all who feed us. When the early 2020 shutdown threw the food industry into upheaval and uncertainty, our members were among the hardest hit by the pandemic, and many are still unable to return to work until they have access to long-term childcare solutions. Over the past year, and we've had City Council funding over the past few years to help scale and grow our programs. And over the crisis, we've been able to bridge stability to unemployment insurance, feed community and hospital workers, rematch people to jobs that have been lost, and then start new training in high growth fields tangential to food, like facilities management, that are in need of diversity and inclusion in their workforce. And like my colleagues have said today, as we explore industry training and placements, a critical component of any of our job placement programs is foundational digital skills to access living wage opportunities. Even beyond the tech sector, to grow in food and hospitality, these skills are also critical. An investment in bridge programming and digital literacy is absolutely an important need for all who work and run in food and run food businesses. We're getting double the number of calls every month from food industry partners from every month prior, and we need investment in training to keep up with this demand. And at the same time, we'd like the city's partnership and investment if we're really to succeed in achieving a fully inclusive recovery. We'd like investment in food businesses so that they can support workers to go back to work with childcare, set schedules, and access to the living wage ladders and pathways in that sector. So we're going to work to rethink and reset this industry, and very important part of the city's economy and cultural fabric. And we can build a good jobs framework as we work towards this inclusive economy and make sure it's a place that also provides an environment for personal and professional fulfillment. So thank you so much for including this in our thinking.
Shaolee, thank you so much. We really appreciate your dedication and work and for being here with us again and for your support of the coalition. Next up is Tanda London from Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Tanda, the floor is yours. You're on mute, Tanda.
Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you, Joey and the team at New York City Employment Training Coalition for giving us this opportunity to advocate on the importance of investing in workforce development programs and support employer-led workforce solutions that will train, upskill, and reskill our workers. I'm Tondalaya London, Vice President of Business Services for the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Although workforce challenges existed before the pandemic, it got worse in the last year. As New York small businesses ready for the city's reopening, many are struggling to meet the demand for increased operations as employees are not returning to work for a variety of reasons. According to a survey of over 200 small businesses conducted by the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, 64% expressed they were experiencing difficulties filling available positions. Small businesses are facing a deficit in finding skilled workers, which has a negative impact on their bottom line. Traditionally, wage subsidies have proven to be a lifeline for our small business owners and a proven investment in worker advancement. It is imperative that workforce funding be reinstated to support community training programs to ensure a sustainable economy. The best thing we can do to build a stronger economy and stronger labor force is to make sure community training providers are adequately funded and every New Yorker has access to quality job training. Intentional investments in our workforce recovery, business, and community partnerships is the foundation to improving economic systems and sustaining a growing workforce. Once again, thank you to New York City Employment Training Coalition for coordinating this call to action and the opportunity to express the need for this crucial funding, which will create a skilled workforce for our small businesses and remove barriers facing our communities. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tanda. Appreciate your support, your partnership, your membership. Thank you for being here with us. Next up is Kathleen Cuhane, President of NEW and NYCETC Board Chair. Kathleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Happy to be with you all today. Thank you to the council members and all of you for being with us today. Again, Kathleen Cuhane, President of Non-Traditional Employment for Women, Board Chair of ETC, and me and my fellow members of the ETC, we echo the cry that building back better is critical for New York's economic recovery. We look to the mayor's office to restore and enhance funding for workforce development initiatives like NEW and our fellow members to best help job seekers build skills and access sustainable employment like those in the building trades. Securing funds and supporting the workforce development tied to economic development is now more critical than ever. Along with the much needed investments in infrastructure opportunities, we need to invest in New Yorkers now. This is a once in a generation opportunity to improve workforce development in New York City and to fully support those hardest hit by the pandemic. This year, hurt Black and brown women deeply. In some months, they accounted for all job losses. So now, more than ever, government infrastructure projects are prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion with a clear focus on construction and community hiring. Together, the workforce development organizations with expertise in training and preparing for the green economy and the building trades want to approach these opportunities collaboratively and from positions of strength. We want to be able to seize this moment. We've spent years building relationships in communities and with employer partners. And we've all spent the last 13 months pivoting as needed, responding to the immediate needs of individuals and communities we serve, as you've heard for so many of my fellow CBO leaders today, while continuing to keep an eye on preparing folks for the future. The New York Building Congress predicts construction job growth continues in New York City. The predictions align with COVID impact. Jobs in the green economy and building trades were impacted by the pandemic relatively minimally as compared with many other sectors. Overall, we saw a contraction in 2020 of less than 4%, and we see the sector quickly rebounding. The workforce development, green economy, and building trade sectors will all benefit from deep investments in bridge programming, wraparound services, and capacity and collaboration, building opportunities to help us leverage and take advantage of the investments that will be coming down the pipeline to build a New York City that is greener, more efficient, more inclusive, and equitable. Thank you again for your time and attention today in support of our sector, which can only strengthen New York City as we build back and come back equitably.
Thank you, Kathleen. And that concludes today's rally. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us. Thank you to all our speakers, our partners, everyone who is here with us today. But a special thank you to Council Members Rosenthal, Grodenchik, Cornegy, and Adams for joining us today and for pushing the fight forward within the City Council. Thank you to all who have joined us today and on social media. Join us in these final 2 weeks, which are critical for advocacy, and reach out to your council member to get their support for job training programs. Tag them on social media, contact them over email or by phone, and additionally, look out for our email with sample language on emails, social media posts, and other things. Now let's get to work and push for a strong and visionary jobs and training plan to make sure New Yorkers get back to work stronger and better than ever before, and that our recovery is an equitable and inclusive one. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.